Language learning are actually a framework that explain how humans learn language. So it's not just about the end of the result, but also the process. Well, there are two important things in this theory. The first one is internal process, and the second one is external process. For the internal process are like how our brain work, how we think, remember, and understand language. Meanwhile, the external process are more about our environment and daily experience, such as interaction with other people or hands-on practice. So these theories try to combine the two so that we can understand why people can learn language in certain ways. And why it is important in language learning? Because first, for the teacher, with this theory, teacher can choose the most appropriate teaching strategies, such as when to use drilling, when to use discussion, or when to give a project assignment. Second, for the student, this theory helps students to understand how to learn language more effectively. So it's not just about memorizing words, but also knowing how to use the language in real situations. And finally, this theory also serves the basis for developing curricula and teaching methods. This means the curricula are not developed arbitrarily, but are based on a strong theoretical foundation, so that learning objectives are more clear.
Behaviorism started in the early 20th century when John B. Watson rejected psychoanalysis. At that time, psychoanalysis focused too much on unconscious drives and inner conflicts, which was things that couldn't be directly observed. Behaviorists wanted psychology to be more scientific, so they can focus only on what could be seen and measured. What is the thing? Behavior. The main principle is simple. Learning happens through stimulus, response, and reinforcement. For example, in Pavlov classical conditioning, dogs learn to salivate and became excited when hearing a bell, because bell always remind the dog of food. Skinner later added operant conditioning, where behaviors are strengthened through rewards or weakened through punishment. In English learning, behaviorism appears in drills and repetition, like practicing vocabulary over and over until it sticks, and in giving rewards when students perform correctly. The good thing is, it's practical and measurable. The downside is, it ignores how students actually think, because behaviorism treats students like robots that just copying an action. Cognitivism came later, in the 1960s, as the rejection of behaviorism. During the cognitive revolution, people realized learners are not just robots. They don't only react, they also think, plan, and connect as ideas. The principle is, learning is a mental process. Students take information, connect it to what they already know, and create new understanding. Piaget explained this with assimilation and accommodation, adding new info or changing old ideas. Gestalt psychology showed how learning can come from seeing the whole picture and having an aha moment. Tolman added a new idea of cognitive maps, where our brains build mental maps to guide us in new situations. In English learning, this means activities like making mind maps, connecting vocabulary, or discovering grammar patterns by themselves. The strength is that students really understand what they learn. The weakness is it's hard to measure and depends a lot on student motivation.
And now we continue to Constructivism. So Constructivism is mainly connected to the works of Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky. It emerged around the 1970s and 1980s as a response to the limits of both behaviorism and cognitivism. While behaviorism focused too much on habits and cognitivism focused mainly on mental processes, Constructivism highlighted the importance of experience and social context in learning. According to this theory, learning is shaped by social interaction. Vygotsky introduced the idea of the zone of proximal development, or ZPD, which means learners can reach a higher level with guidance and support before they can do it independently. In language learning, knowledge is not just transferred from teacher to student. Instead, it is built from real experiences and active interaction with the environment. This theory encourages students to think critically and to participate actively in the learning process. However, constructivism also has a weakness. It requires a rich and interactive environment to be effective, and without it, learning might not be as successful. And in this table, we can compare the three main theories of language learning. Behaviorists, represented by J.B. Watson, focus on imitation and practice. Learning happens through drilling and reinforcement. This is good for quick memorization, but the weakness is that it often lacks deeper meaning. While cognitivists, with Piaget as the main figure, focus on mental processes, learners understand patterns and rules. The strength is that it emphasizes meaning, but it does not give much attention to social interaction. Unless constructivists, influenced by Vygotsky, focus on social interaction, learning happens through collaboration and scaffolding. This strength is that it is realistic and communicative, but it also depends on having a supportive environment. So, each theory has its own focus and contribution. Behaviorists on practice, cognitivists on mental processing, and constructivists on social learning.
Alright, now let's move on to the implications of these theories in English language teaching. If we start with the behaviorist theory, the main focus is on building habits. In an English class, this usually means doing repetitive practice or drills. For example, practicing pronunciation, repeating sentence patterns, or memorizing vocabulary. To keep students motivated, teachers can give positive reinforcement such as praise, good grades, or even a simple smile. The classroom is also kept structured and organized, so students get used to using English correctly through repetition and habit formation. While on the other hand, the cognitive theory puts more emphasis on students' thinking processes. In English teaching, this can be applied through problem-solving tasks like analyzing a reading passage to find hidden meanings or connecting new vocabulary with words they already know. Teachers can also use scaffolding, which is providing small supports at the beginning and then gradually letting students become more independent. There are also metacognitive strategies which help students reflect on how they learned best. This way, they become aware of whether they learn faster by listening, reading, or writing, and they can manage their own learning strategies. And finally, the constructivist theory. Well, this theory focuses on real-life experiences and social interaction. In an English class, this can take the form of collaborative activities like group discussions, role plays, or projects. For example, students might simulate a job interview, perform a short drama, or write an email in English. Here, the teacher is not just a source of knowledge but acts more as a facilitator who creates meaningful learning situations. This allows students to practice English while really using it in everyday contexts. To wrap up, language learning theories offer us different perspectives on how humans acquire language. The behaviorist theory highlights practice, imitation, and reinforcement, which works best for structured activities like drilling. The cognitivist theory focuses on mental processes and meaning-making, encouraging learners to solve problems and build deeper understanding.
Meanwhile, the constructivist theory emphasizes social interaction and collaboration, making language learning more communicative and connected to real-life situations. Well, each theory has its own strengths and weaknesses. But rather than seeing them as separate, we can combine them. By doing so, teachers have a stronger foundation for designing strategies, activities, and curricula that meet the needs of their students. Well, in real-life classroom practice, effective English teaching usually blends all three. Habit building from behaviorist, critical thinking from cognitivists, and meaningful interaction from constructivists. So, the main point is that no single theory is enough on its own, but together they provide us with a richer and more flexible approach to teaching and learning languages. Well, that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this material has given you some useful insights about how different learning theories can be applied in language teaching.